turn my mic on. Oh, people. Let's start again. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are, wherever you're joining us from, we are so glad to welcome you to this time of worship. We're here at Canadian Memorial United Church in Vancouver, and although the church is empty, the congregation is very much gathered, and we are so grateful to have you here with us. We gather to worship, to pray, and to play and to sing together on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. If you're watching from home, you'll see that on our YouTube channel you can leave comments, let us know who you're watching with and where you're watching from. Our Minister of Community Life, Joseph Kaiser, has gratefully offered to stay at home in his pajamas to navigate and host that conversation for all of you. However you come this day, we're glad you're here. Let's worship together. Just before we join in song, and I really encourage you to break into song together, even in your living room, wherever you are, let's center ourselves with the words of a poem that many of you will have seen this week, called In the Time of Pandemic by Kitty O'Meara. And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply and meditated. Some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently. And the people healed. And in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. And when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and they made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed.
Praise with joy the world's creator, God of justice, love, and peace, source and end of human knowledge, God whose grace shall never cease. Celebrate the Maker's glory, now to rescue and release. Praise to Christ who feeds the hungry,
Every Sunday we gather, we light a candle. We call it in this place, with the history of our building, the peace candle. It's also known as the Christ candle, and is an acknowledgement that that light is within each and every one of us. And so you might not have a candle at your ready just now, but if you join us again another week, an invitation to also light a candle when we do this act each week, that we might be joined together in that symbolic act together. I'm going to invite you to share with me in words that we call a call to worship, really a call to show up, to let go of what is pulling you away from this place, and to give yourself this time for your spiritual nurture. Join with me responsively. As the light seeps into the darkest shadows of our fears, we hear a holy invitation to be still. In the stillness, we feel our feet rooted in nourishing earth.
In the stillness,
we feel our breath, fierce whisper of hope. In the stillness, we feel our beating hearts, rhythmic promises of life.
We hear the holy invitation to be still.
Be still, be still, be still.
So I look out on the pews and I imagine people that are normally sitting here, and there's a sadness that you're not here, but also a reassurance that you are back there behind that camera, and that there are other people that are joining us as well. And maybe I would expect that we are all feeling that sense of need for community, maybe now more than any other time. And so we are open to connecting with each other across the miles and via the internet. So we sing together.
Open
to the God of love, open to the Spirit's nudge, open to my soul set free from chains of fear, bring liberty, open to the healing place, open to a thread of grace, open to my soul being filled, my heart restored, my mind renewed. Oh, Spirit of life, oh, Spirit of grace, you have made your home in us. May we follow in your ways. Open to a road to walk with the family of God. Open to each other's pain. Open to each other's ways. Open to my feet, set free from chains of hate's captivity. Open to our cosmic God who wants us free, set free to love. Oh, Spirit of life, oh, Spirit of grace, you have made your home in us. May we follow in. Oh, Spirit, oh, Spirit of life, oh, Spirit of grace, you have made your home in us. May we follow in your way.
Let's sing verse 2 again.
Open to the road to walk with the family of God. Open to each other's pain. Open to each other's ways. Open to my speed, set free from chains of hate's captivity. Open to our cosmic God who wants us free, set free to love. Oh, Spirit of life, oh, Spirit of grace, you have made your home in us. May we follow in your ways. Oh, Spirit of life, oh, Spirit of grace, you have made your home in us. May we follow in your ways, in your ways.
You may notice if you worship with us regularly that we're trying to keep the flow of our service as much like usual as we can. Our hope is in offering our usual flow of worship. It might feel a little bit like home for many of you. And part of what we do at this moment in the service is sharing announcements and our offering. It is a spiritual practice to give. And in these times, when so many of us are struggling, we know that giving may be difficult for some. Let's start first with announcements and gratitudes. And certainly a gratitude, I don't know, Hannes, if you can pan out to everyone who's up here with me. You'll see our singers standing far enough apart, and our music minister, Lonnie, and our usual band. There are other people, about 4 or 5 people behind the scenes as well. It's amazing how many people it takes to pull this off, and they're doing a fabulous job, and I'm so grateful to be in ministry with all of you. And we didn't just pull out the heavyweights for TV. These guys are always all here. So, announcements for you. Everything you need to know to keep connected to us can be found on our website, canadianmemorial.org. So go there if you lose track of what I'm saying right now. Today, following worship, we will have a virtual coffee hour using the platform Zoom. So again, that should be on the YouTube channel. If you can't find it there, go to the website. Everything you need is on the website. We're finding new ways to connect. And so setting up a sort of phone tree, small groups of a half dozen to 10 people, and we're calling those caring calls. So again, look to the website for that if you want to stay connected to the community. And on Wednesdays each week, 3 times on Wednesdays, you'll have the opportunity to gather with others, again, using Zoom, just to check in, have a prayer together, and see how we're all faring in the midst of this. And finally, the Donate Now button. Again, I know that for some, your presence here is what you're giving today, and that is okay. If you're a regular giver and you'd usually put some money in the plate, that Donate Now button works just fine, and we're grateful. Every gift, small and large, is a testament to our faith that we can continue to do amazing things even in times of challenge. And so every week after we give thanks in this way, we sing our celebration.
I want to say thanks for the life you've given me. I want to say thanks for the blessings we share. You give grace in the midst of our suffering. I want to say thanks because you're always there. Oh yeah, I want to say thanks for the life you've given me. I want to say thanks for the blessings we share. You give grace in the midst of our suffering. I want to say thanks because you're always there.
And so we come now to what we call the sermon. And, you know, it's interesting, if you come to worship on Sunday morning and you've just come for the music, you're kind of stuck for these 12 minutes or so. That's how long you've got, okay, if you need a break, about 10, 12 minutes. And this is where I try to make some sense of what's happening in our world and our lives. And it kept coming to mind for me this week. You know that saying, what a difference a day can make? What a difference a week can make. A week ago, we thought that what happens yesterday might be a good predictor of what happens tomorrow. A week ago, we thought that we had some sort of control, if you will, over our own destiny. A week ago, we thought that being lucky enough to be born in a country where there's democracy and freedom and peace was enough to keep us relatively safe. This week, it's like things have been turned upside down. We're not sure what we can hold on to anymore. This week, we're being asked to approach everyone that we encounter as if they're infected. This week, the challenges are really great. It's like in this 1 week, the world has shrunk to the size of our living room, but simultaneously it's grown as large as this global web that we can't quite see, but we know we're connected to, and we're feeling a bit helpless. What a difference a week can make. And what do you do? What do you do? What are we called to do when it feels like the rug's being pulled out from under us? What are we called to do when we can no longer hold on to what we thought we knew for sure a short week ago? What to do in these times? I want to offer just a bit today, knowing that what I offer in these few minutes won't be the whole story. I'm not going to try to quote every bit of wisdom that I found on the internet this week, not going to try to offer every last piece, but maybe just hone in on a little bit to give us a bit of peace and comfort in these times. And it was interesting, I read in, I think it was the Washington Post this week, this idea that a pandemic doesn't just have these physical consequences. There are societal harms, there's psychological impact, and I would even say there's this shadow side of a pandemic for our spiritual lives where we start to question what we thought we knew for sure. And so I was looking this week for scripture that would inspire us, but before I even get there, I'm just so aware of how this has impacted so many of us. You watching have stories, countless stories of how your life and the people you know are being impacted. There are members of our church here who are trying to come home from Spain via Dublin and London. There's a family who are in Australia to visit extended family and are flying home with their young girls today. And their social media post was so telling yesterday. What a strange vacation. Going back and forth between the weather's great, not a worry in the world, to how will we ever get home? It's like every single one of us is impacted. In the house that I rent with my family, our basement tenant has been laid off from his job as a line cook. There are ripple effects touching every single one of us. What to do in times that tap into that natural biological place in us of being scared and anxious. Some of what people are doing right now is just tapping into that realism, almost going as far as they can into pessimism as possible, trying to immerse themselves and maybe inoculate themselves with the facts, with the truth, with the harsh reality. And others of us just want to feel the healing balm of good news stories. The good news stories like communities coming together on the internet, offering things to one another, to strangers, bringing meals to others' doors in need. And then the stories like the woman in Prince George who just put out a request on social media saying, please, put some bright pictures on your windows. Put some hearts on your windows so that when I go out with my kids, we can have a virtual scavenger hunt in the whole neighborhood. There are countless stories of people doing good things and amazing things together. We need it all. We need to be real right now because that's going to keep us safe. We need to be informed. We need to follow what is being asked of us. And we've got to keep sharing the good news stories that give us an assurance that, you know what, as humanity, we're decent. We've got this. We actually know how to care for one another and to tap deeply into that common love. And so it's been interesting to me to hear this thread of conversation, certainly with the colleagues that I work with, other ministers in various places, saying, nothing prepared us for this. Like, there was no course in seminary of how to pastor in a pandemic. And I'm sure you're hearing it other places as well. But goodness, haven't our lives taught us a lot? Hasn't every one of us who's gone through some particular challenge been able to take away from that learnings that have equipped us for right now? And in this place, I like to go to the stories of our faith, and they are loaded with ideas and stories and examples of people who've been through very trying, anxious times. I could tell you the story of the people in the wilderness 40 years. 40 years before they caught a glimpse of the promised land. And a week feels long to us. But I could tell you, too, stories of a holy love that became incarnate, that took on human form, not to teach us lessons, but so that we would know that God knows what it is to suffer and to celebrate. Incarnate love is divine love in human form, knowing intimately what it is to be human and to experience all that we experience. I could tell you stories, too, of this life, death, resurrection that didn't just happen a couple thousand years ago, but it's actually a framework that we can shape our lives by. With every death, with every letting go, is a possibility of new life and resurrection. I think today I just want to focus in on the story of this season. We're halfway through the season of Lent, which is this time in the church year where we're supposed to give things up, let things go a bit, just take more time in practices and prayer and taking good care of ourselves and one another's. What a perfect season to have this thrown on us. And the key story of the Lenten season is the story of Jesus in the wilderness. He spends 40 days in the wilderness. We call it the story of the temptation because right at the end of it, the tempter starts showing up and saying to him, "Hey, Jesus, rely on your own smarts. Trust your own sensibilities. Don't even listen to the idea that there's some greater divine love at work and holding us. You know it all in your head." But for the 40 days before that, Jesus does two things. He fasts and he prays. That's it. Now, I don't imagine that he was going around the desert praying like we tend to with words all the time. With 40 days, you got to think that some of that prayer, a whole lot of it, looked a bit more like contemplation and meditation. 40 days of letting go, of setting aside the stuff in his head that he knew for sure, of letting go of his easy answers. We call this kenosis, and a self-emptying, a making room for the holy and new possibilities to reside in our hearts. And so I'd like to tell you today to just pray. Pray. Because I do think that it will serve us really well in this time, but we're being told to do an awful lot. And I'm not sure I want to add one more layer of to-dos for you all. And I also know that some of us, when we're told what to do, makes it a little hard for us to be open to doing it. So let me take another angle. Let's look at the small things that we do and the impact that they have. The story is told about the cholera outbreaks that happened, nearly 200 years ago. One in particular in London, where everyone was running from a particular neighborhood because people were dying and they were so frightened. Until the Dr. John Snow came along and persevered and convinced the authorities to take out the handle on a water pump in the neighborhood. And then people stopped getting sick. One small act. Now, I appreciate we're going to need a lot more than taking the handle off a water pump to face coronavirus. And small acts go a long, long way. The small acts that we're doing daily of washing hands and keeping our distance have a ripple effect. It's like every small thing we do can impact the bigger web of life. And I want to suggest that it's not just about the things we're doing. It's actually most important how we do things. And I want to suggest that the best way we could be showing up right now is with a sense of reverence. Reverence it's not something you can hold on to. It's a posture. It's a way of being. And it's an acknowledgement that there is holiness and sacredness in everything. Certainly in everyone and all of creation, but also a sacredness in what we do. And if we practice letting go a bit of being sure what outcomes are going to be, or knowing what next steps are right. We need to be agile right now. And a posture of reverence might just enable us a little bit more to be agile, to be responsive, to show up grounded when it is going to be so easy to lean into our fears and our anxiety. A posture of reverence. It's a calling to each one of us, a calling of how to live our lives. Now, I'm going to hand it over very shortly to the music team to sing a song for us all, a song by Leonard Cohen, because I'm telling you, he has a way with words that some of us don't. And he talks about healing, and he talks about healing of our minds and our hearts and our souls and our bodies and our world. But he also says, none of us deserving the cruelty or the grace. We do not deserve the cruelty of this virus. We don't deserve the havoc it's wreaking on us, or the way it's lifting our lives and turning them upside down. But let's not waste our time blaming this on God. The God we speak about in this place is love. That's it, just love. And so a God that is all love is not interested, in fact, not capable of wreaking havoc on us. God is love. We're not deserving of the cruelty, just like we're not deserving of the grace. The grace that is present to every one of us, that can flow from us when we stand in reverence, when we stand calm, when we engage daily in small acts of love and kindness. What a difference, they say. What a difference a day can make. Well, what a difference a posture can make. Blessed be. Amen.
To me now, the fragrance of those
I've had word, you can keep in touch when you're worshiping in this way. We have over 200 people tuned in right now, or 200 screens. Maybe that's like 1,000 people. But either way, that's even more than we have in the pews on a Sunday morning, a few more than that. And we do this for you. We're doing this as an offering as long as we possibly can to keep connected with all of you, because community matters in these times. And I know that those up here with me, I'm sure lots of moms are watching, people who know us and love us, but most especially the community that gathers here each Sunday, and others who are just hungry to connect with one another. Thank you for being with us. We always engage in prayer at this time, because that's something you do in a faith community. It's not a laundry list for God, it's more speaking of our heart. And so I invite you to just join your hearts together around this world as I offer the words from my heart in prayer for all of us. Let's pray. Oh God, oh holy mystery, oh source of life, you are present and we are here. And we dare to reach deep and offer gratitude for this moment, gratitude for connection, gratitude for the way we are able to stay connected and be responsive in these changing times. We pray this day for so many people, for those who are keeping us safe and fed, for those who are trying to find their way home, for those for whom this illness is coming a little too close to home, and for all those we know who continue to struggle with the things they were struggling with a week ago, anxiety and fear and illness and grief. We offer it all up in trust, knowing that amongst us there is enough trust to lay our prayers down, and there is enough trust to lean into the love that promises to not let us go. Open our hearts, open our minds, create space in every one of us that we might be wise and attuned to one another and your calling in this time. Hear these prayers, O Holy Mystery, and the prayers of our hearts. We speak them in this place each week, offering a version of the prayer that Jesus taught us to pray together. And so please join in with this paraphrase of the Lord's Prayer as you see it on your screen. Indwelling God, infused throughout all existence, we honor you with many names. Your realm is within the human heart. We accept life for all that it can be on earth as throughout all creation. May we continue to draw sustenance from this earth, and may we receive forgiveness equal to our own. May we ever move from separation toward union to live in grace, with love in our hearts forever and ever. Amen.
Oh, you know what? I jumped ahead of everything. And now it's going to be online forever. No wonder nobody was with me. The band is moving papers. I'm like, why did they not know? Okay, that moment of reverence, can we just sort of rewind and get back to that? This song is, We Cannot Own the Sunlit Sky, is really about revering creation and one another. Sorry about that. Okay, so drinks on me later. Here we go. Virtual.
We cannot own the sunlit sky, the moon, the wildflowers growing, though we are part of all that is. We
no bread but tears, and war horns sound their warning. God calls humanity to wake, to join in common labor, that all may have abundant life and oneness with their neighbor. God calls humanity to join as partners in creating a future free from want or fear, Christ's goodness celebrating. That new world beckons from afar, invites our shared endeavor, that all may have abundant life and peace endure forever.
So much thanks for joining us today. You'll notice we made little mistakes at the beginning and end of the service, quite intentionally, because we want you to remember this isn't a performance. This is
Business as usual. Like
Yeah, it is actually usual, isn't it? We always like to have one blooper a day at least. This is a community in all its beautiful messiness, and we are so grateful you are part of it today. If you're planning to join the virtual coffee hour, there's a code there you're going to need to enter. Don't worry if it takes a while. We'll wait for you. You'll find that both on the home page and on the YouTube page that you're watching, so remember to enter the code. And an invitation this week, every single day, whatever comes, find a way to connect, a beautiful new way to connect safely with those you love and even with strangers and those in need around us. We are in this together. We've got this, friends. Go in the blessing and the love of God, Creator, Redeemer, and Giver of life. Amen.
Oh, may our God be with you until we meet again. Until we meet again. Until we meet again. May our God hold you in the palm of her hand. Oh, may our God be with you until we meet again. Until we meet again. Until we meet again.